Hi, my name is Bill Geisley, and I'm the designer of the Geisley Super Semi-Automatic Trigger, or SSA. And today we're filming a short instructional video to show you how to remove a stock trigger group and install a Geisley SSA. First thing we'll do is we'll take our weapon, and in this case this is a Rock River Arms standard AR-15. Any AR-15 this applies to, whether it's a Colt, Bushmaster, Rock River. First thing you want to do is make sure the weapon's unloaded. And you're going to want to remove the upper receiver. This video is going to be very basic. It's not going to be for the advanced gunsmith. It's going to be for someone who really hasn't had that much experience working on AR-15s. So we're going to go into detail of every little thing. If you've worked on AR-15s before, you may find a lot of what we're saying here redundant, but I figured I want to cover all the bases here. Once you remove your upper receiver, we're going to remove the stock trigger group. And the tools you need in order to start working on trigger groups on an AR-15 is you need a small hammer, in this case a 4-ounce ball peen, flat blade screwdriver in case you have to pull your pistol grip off. On some weapons it's an Allen key, so you might need a standard Allen key. You need some pin punches. This here is an Armstrong roll pin punch, 5/32, works very well for working on AR-15s. We also have a Starrett pin punch set here, which is very handy, has all the different sizes, and again we choose 5/32 punch, which is the standard pin size here on an AR-15. First thing we do, and first thing you have to realize, is that when you're working on an AR-15 receiver, especially with a trigger group, you need 3 hands to be able to work on it. And since God didn't give us 3 hands, you have to get a third one from somewhere. One technique is you can use what's called a magazine well block, and basically it's a Delrin block, fits in the mag well, and you can then clamp your receiver in a vise and you can work on it in a vise. We don't really use them here in the shop. I prefer to work in my lap, and it's very handy to have a shop apron like this one here, which I call the Geisley third hand. So that's how we're going to be doing this, and I'll show you. Starting off, what's the first thing we do is remove the hammer. So we decock the hammer, and we're going to take our pin punch and our small hammer, and we're going to knock out the hammer pin. That's the first thing you do. Always hammer first and then the trigger. So you can see I just laid in my lap here. Everything you do on an AR-15 when it comes to a trigger group is you don't hammer anything. You use very light taps. That's all that's needed. And here we drove our standard pin out. Pull our pin punch out. And our hammer comes out. You'll notice I wear prescription glasses. If you don't take the time to purchase a set of safety glasses, you're working with components under spring pressure, and they could pop out and hit you in the eye. You only have 2 eyes, and they're very difficult to repair. It's one thing if you get cut or something like that, but an eye is a different story. So take the time to wear safety glasses if you don't wear prescription glasses. Once the hammer is out, you're going to pull the trigger out. Again, same thing. Just a pin punch. And out comes your standard trigger group. That's all it is, just 2 pins. The way it's held in is there's a little spring clip, just for information purposes. There's a little spring clip in the center of this hammer that holds the hammer pin in. The trigger pin is held in by the legs of the hammer pin. just like so. On the side groove of that hammer pin, the hammer spring leg captures it, and that's what keeps the trigger pin from moving out. So it seems like these are a slip fit in there, which they are, but they are captured. So now you have your empty receiver well right here. You want to basically clean it. Just make sure there's not a lot of junk in it. You can keep your safety installed for the SSA install here. Sometimes it's easier to remove it, or if you don't want to remove it, you can back your pistol grip off to lower your detent, and then turn your safety 180 degrees from safe, and this forces the safety slot to be facing the trigger and you can get more room in there. But generally, just have it in the fire position, and you'll have enough clearance to put the trigger in. This is how the trigger comes. Complete instructions. You have a trigger and disconnector assembly, and you have a hammer assembly. They come with pins and springs. You also get in the package a little vial of grease, very good grease that we found that works very well on our sear surfaces. And you also get this little slave pin. What the slave pin does is it replaces the trigger pin when you're putting the trigger assembly in the receiver. It just makes it easier to install, easier to align your pin when you insert it. First thing you do, just push your trigger pin out that's been installed from the factory, and you're going to install your slave pin. Here in the shop, we don't use the slave pin. We find it just as easy to align the disconnector by hand, but if you don't work on these all the time, that slave pin can come, is a very handy tool. So as you can see, the slave pin does not extend out past the trunnions of the trigger. Trigger assembly gets fit down inside right past the safety. You'll notice my hand. My finger is right on top of the trigger, and the trigger's under spring tension right now, and you have to align the trigger hole with the hole in the receiver. And there's a little trick to it because it's under spring tension. But what you do is just practice a little bit and move it around and get your finger positioned so where you can align your hole with the hole in the receiver. Don't try as soon as you see it, try to force the pin in. Everything here that we do, as you can see, this is a slip fit in the receiver. There is no pounding, there's no interference fits, there's nothing like that. Do not use force to put anything in. So basically you look through the hole, align your slave pin up, it's silver.